Hola, buenos días. Me llamo Dan. Soy Global Director de Publicidad en Telefonica. Unfortunately, that is where the Spanish stops for me. I'm getting Spanish lessons. It's getting better, but not quite good enough to present to you today. So my apologies. Today, it's an honor to be with you at an MMA event here in Spain. I've been involved with the MMA for many years, and I'm glad to talk to you. What I'd like to talk to you about today is really talking about some of the big changes that are going on in advertising and how some brands are using context to get closer to their consumers. And I've learned a lot since I've been at Telefonica about change. A lot of industries are being disrupted, and none more so than telecoms. And when you look at Telefonica, 30 years ago, it experienced a revolution in its core business, and it had to change from a landline company into a mobile network operator. And today, where we have 300 million customers globally, and have metamorphosized into one of the largest in the world. But 30 years later, there's been a new revolution, and the digital revolution. So we've had to transform ourselves again into a digital telco. And I'll give you some examples. So whether that's utilizing our machine-to-machine technology to help connect some of the world's most connected vehicles, like Tesla, whether that's using our remote monitoring technology in e-health to be able to connect hospitals in Peru to lower readmission rates in hospital by up to 47%, or our dynamic insights company called Smart Steps, where we take anonymized data and we're able to understand how people move in urban environments and rural environments to help businesses make smarter decisions. And of course, Wira, which you may know, which is our world-famous startup accelerator where we have 10 academies in 12 countries, helping to disrupt not just our own business, but also other businesses. But clearly, it's not just telecoms that has been disrupted. Advertising has been disrupted massively, and we're all going through change. I believe that we've entered the age of context, and in the age of context, it's had a profound effect, not just how we buy media, but also how brands can tell stories in those media. Context has always been very central to how brands tell stories. If you go back to the first media like radio in the 1950s, when you wrote advertising, when you wrote creatives, you knew where your customer was. On radio, they'd be gathered around their radio in the living room listening. Then radios moved into cars. Suddenly you had drive-time radio, new ways of telling stories. And so it evolved. So context has always been at the center. Now, in terms of understanding how brands tell stories and the different business models that dictate it, I thought I'd use an example like this of telenovela. Does everyone know telenovela? No one admits to watching telenovela. Okay, I understand that. But it is a great example of commercial television. And it's great because it's a little cliffhanger before each ad break to bring you back. It's an oh my God moment at the end of each episode to bring you back the following week. So you have more eyeballs watching TV, you have more money for each ad spot, and effectively you're making more money for the media companies and you're increasing shareholder value. This is a very successful business model. Are there any fans of House of Cards here? That's more like it. Okay, yeah, so I'm a big House of Cards fan as well. House of Cards is a great example of non-commercial television. Netflix, where people pay a monthly subscription to watch each month. So there's no oh my God moments. There's no cliffhangers to bring you back because people consume this in a different way. In fact, the stat that I was astounded by, on day one of season 3 of House of Cards, it occupied 45% of internet bandwidth in the US. 45%, basically from one TV show. And that was from binge watching. People just watch the whole episode at once. I'm sure there are plenty of people here who do that as well. But in 2015, people are obsessed by one thing, and that's their mobile phone. Does anybody recognize this at all? This, no one. This here, I don't know if this is a laser. This is a mobile lane in Chongqing in China. So you walk on this lane to make sure that you don't injure yourself or other people as you walk down the street. And this is the fast lane where you can walk without worrying that you're going to injure yourself. I guess the main point is that this is where people's attention are. This is where the attention is. If you're always fighting against the attention of the mobile phone. If I do an okay job today in my presentation, you'll probably just look at your phone 3 or 4 times. And that's a microcosm of life, whether that's with our children, whether that's with our bosses, whether that's with anyone who we're with. We're always competing for attention from the mobile phone. In 2013, Shell Israel and Robert Scoble wrote a fantastic book that I highly recommend if you haven't read it, called The Age of Context. They predict that we're moving into an age, or have now moved into an age, which is dictated by the next generation of personalization technology. And mobile will unlock social, data, sensors, and location to revolutionize the relationship with people, objects, and the world around us. And some of this personalization technology will know us better than some of our closest friends. Now, mobile is now, but we don't view it as a channel. I think in the digital age, it brought us programmatic, and in the digital age, it allowed us to move from targeting people through channels to targeting audiences. But with mobile, there's so much context around individuals that we can actually understand what it's like to be that individual at that moment. So we're not so much targeting you, we're having a conversation with you, we're communicating with you. And that's the opportunity. And that's why I think, that the next generation of superstar creatives are less likely to be Don Draper and Peggy from Mad Men. They're more likely to be a combination of creative and technology, of Mad Men and Math Men, to use Martin Sorrell's example. So, I thought I'd share with you some statistics of how we see LATAM and how we see, which is a region that's very important to Telefonica, and how we basically see the developing markets next to the developed markets in places like Europe and the US. Today, I think LATAM is certainly feature phone first, and we recognize that. And it's important for any brand to realize the difference between a feature phone first market and a smartphone first market. But that's changing, and by the middle of 2017, we expect smartphones to overtake feature phones. So very exciting things are happening. But also it's important to remember that there's a lot of counterintuitive statistics that are coming back on how advanced these developing markets are, and how in some areas they're actually overtaking the more developed markets. Would you think that it would be Mexico or the USA that would have the biggest proportion of smartphone users, I'm not saying it's more, I'm saying of proportionally of how many you have? Would you say that it would be Brazil, or would you say that it would be Germany? Would you say that it would be Argentina, Mexico or Spain? Or would you say it would be Spain? When you can see what the figures are there, you can see that, again, it's not what you would expect. A lot of these evolving markets are starting to overtake the more developed markets. There's also been a revolution going on in shopping, and we can see how people are using their mobiles in store as well. And when you compare the behavior that's already happening in developed markets, like here in Spain, you can see that in LATAM and some developing markets, it's actually exceeding that. Similarly, not just how you compare prices in store, but also how you communicate with your friends and loved ones in the store about what you might buy in that store. That's also changing as well. And you can see how the difference is in some of the more developed markets over here, including Spain at 38%, and then also how that builds into LATAM, where this behavior is even more pronounced. So we're seeing a leapfrogging going on. Now, a lot of you may know Mary Meeker from KPCB. We love her. She's the poster child of mobile stats and mobile advertising. And what Mary talks about always is the amount of me? She doesn't talk about that. What Mary Meeker talks about is the 3x opportunity. In the US, she says that 24% of eyeballs on mobile, but only 8% of spend. Now, when you look at that across Latin America, you can see that that's different. In Mexico, which is the most advanced market, it is the difference is between 7 and 20. It's quite similar. Also a 3x opportunity. But when you actually look at the other markets, you can see what including Spain, you can see what a massive opportunity it is. So if you only have 2.7% of spend here in Spain, and that you have 25% of eyeballs, you can see it's almost like an 8 or 10x opportunity. It's even bigger. So we're expecting a big correction there in the years to come. So what I thought I'd do is talk about 3 rules that I think brands can look at for how they can use context to get closer to their consumers. Now, we've all seen how the center of our universe has changed. Some of you may know Maslow's hierarchy of law, where we need food and water to survive, and how things have moved on, and actually now we need internet and we need a charged battery in order to be fully fulfilled. And smart brands have always been great at responding to these human needs. And you can see that here they will sponsor Wi-Fi inside airports, and they will sponsor charging inside airports. But this is then backed up by this enormous trend that's going on about the consumers' hunger for megas, consumers' hunger for connectivity, and it's getting bigger and bigger. I'm sure we've seen from the great presentations this morning, the hunger for things like video and for rich media is growing exponentially. And we know, because we're a carrier, that approximately 25% of people will come to the end of their monthly data plan. And what happens when they come to the end of their monthly data plan is that what they do is they defer that activity over to Wi-Fi. So they won't interact on the go. They'll wait till they're either at home or they're at work. This can happen a lot. So we think that this is a big opportunity for brands. We think it's the next universal utility brand experience for brands to be able to basically pick up the tab for their customers' data. We think it could potentially be as big as 0800 numbers. What we've done here for Bradesco Bank in Brazil, the biggest national bank in Brazil, we provide free access to their mobile banking app. And since they introduced this, they've had a massive increase in the amount of people who are using it. And we're having a lot of interesting discussions. And we're also looking for other beta partners in various territories in Europe and across Latin America. It's been so successful, they're now running TV ads to tell people that it's free to use their mobile banking app. It's a real utility. We're really adding value here. So that's rule number 1. Connectivity is the new need. The second is really about data. It's about the quality of data. If you'd have run a contextual ad many years ago, it would have been about running a press ad, and around your press ad, you'd run it in a relevant editorial creative. Obviously now, as things move on, it's about having the right kind of data that underpins your digital campaign. In order to do that, we believe that you need to have authenticated data. That is, in order to run the best campaigns, data needs to be authenticated. When it's authenticated, you know that you're reaching the right people. If you don't have that, then you can give people potentially irrelevant advertising, irrelevant stories. So, we think that if you capture that kind of data incorrectly, then there's that ability to serve the wrong kind of content. And as a telco, clearly, it's very important because we have a direct billing relationship. We believe that we have that level of authentication where we know who you are, so we can make sure, for sure, we're first party, not third party, that we can serve you the right kind of data. Similarly, we don't just know who you are, we also understand some of your behaviors and what you're doing. And finally, of course, some of the contextual data around how you're behaving, things like geolocation and also identity. So that would be rule number 2. Get closer with high-quality data. Make sure you know who your customers are. The final point is around mobile creative. I spoke about 3 years ago, I think it was at an MMA event as well, in Cannes, about what people want from mobile creative, how brands can deliver mobile creative. And for consumers, for people, I said it was about kill time, save time, and prime time for content. Things have kind of stayed in that sort of way in terms of what you should think about. The technology has moved on a bit, but largely things haven't changed in terms of the way that a lot of the mobile creative is going. I think the MMA is doing a lot of really great work in terms of using with the Smarties and things like that to try and elevate the level of mobile creative. But I think that there's so much opportunity for mobile creatives to express themselves. I think there's a new generation of young mobile creatives who are waiting to utilize this contextual data, this contextual information to deliver relevant experiences at the right time. And I think we're only just starting to see what that can be. This is a great example of a service that runs here in Spain. And what it does, when it delivers you a product that you order online through your mobile, it will understand where you are and will deliver that product to exactly where you are. Not necessarily here, I think a guy's on a beach, right, having something delivered, rather than just delivering something to your home or to your office. I'm not saying this is something that brands should go and do. I'm just saying it's a different way of thinking, which unfortunately I don't think we're seeing enough of. There are some great campaigns out there, but I think there's a lot more that we can do as an industry today. And I think that, with a lot of the great brands and the great companies that are in the room today, and we've seen a lot of great presentations, there's something we can do to elevate the level of mobile creativity, bringing our siloed approach, bringing media people together with creative people, together with data people, together with technology people, to make sure that we're really thinking together and we're delivering the best kind of work that we can. I'll now just share with you a quick example. It's actually 2 years old. Saddens me a little bit that we had to go back 2 years. It's my favorite sort of example of a contextual advertising campaign, and it was run in Guatemala.
Yeah, I'm in the Nike store. There he is. He's getting the message. There's a promotion for Beatback. I think so. Yeah, we got him. Big bubble down!
Meatpack is the trendiest shoe store in Guatemala, a brand known for its edgy, cutting style and a store known for its unique discounts in limited edition kicks including brands like Adidas, Nike and Reebok. An icon for the sneakerhead subculture with over 60,000 fans on their fan page in less than a year. They needed to launch a new promotion that lived up to their hardcore fans, an innovative way to earn your discount. We created Hijack, an enhancement for the official Meatpack app used by our customers, using GPS tracking technology that marks every competitor's store of the brand sold at Meatpack. So every time one of our sneakerheads enters one of the stores, it triggers a special notice with a promotion. Hijack sends an alert to the person's mobile with a discount that starts at 99% and decreases by 1% every second that goes by, making the countdown stop until you reach our store. More than 600 customers were hijacked from the competitors in a week. One customer, Pedro Rodriguez, got a record-breaking 89% discount. This is the first promo campaign that started the sale in the competitors' stores.
I love that campaign. It's just a great example of using contextual information, contextual data, and delivering it in a kind of fun way. Again, it's a shame that we have to go back 2 years to find something as great as that. I'd love to know if anyone else has any brilliant campaigns that they know of for contextual creativity as well. Just to summarize, I guess from our perspective, connectivity is the new need. We think it's the new universal utility brand experience for brands to pick up the tab for their customers' data to allow them to use more internet and not have to worry about their monthly bills. Secondly, we think that there's an opportunity for brands to get closer to their customers by making sure that they're using high-quality data, authenticated first-party data, to make absolutely sure that they know who they're talking to. And finally, on the creativity front, with all of the great and the good of the Spanish mobile and media industry here today, let's try and focus on getting together our media teams, our creative teams, our technology teams to unleash this contextual data to elevate the level of our creativity. Thank you very much for listening. We're already lucky enough to work with some of these brands that you see already, and we're running betas in selective market, and we'd love to hear from you. Thank you very much for your time.